All right. I know, it's very strange.
That's very bizarre.
Hi, George. Can you all hear us? John, Marshall? Yes. John Fulweiler? Yes.
Yes, good afternoon. All's good.
Excellent.
Do we have a count, Nora?
It's 16
16
total. Oh, 17? Yeah, okay. Crystal Tedeschi is on as well, but her camera's on.
And the dog. Is dog in there? Oh, okay.
Yes,
The dog is not,
free reign.
dog is not on mute.
We're gonna take care of that in the Donna's committee.
We're on.
All dogs are invited.
Oh, welcome.
The dog.
Yeah.
On my Zoom.
That's you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
excellent.
I love that.
Well, here, sit right here at the table.
They always know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Sounds
Well, I think we need four
Right.
sides,
Yeah.
because if you're on an angle, you can't see.
I have. We're just gonna have Sarah likes to have a back.
That-
We'll have to get a shower, but like a clean one.
Yeah, I
It's
think
still in the package.
And do you like leave it out?
No, it is very much tucked away. It's very much tucked away.
It's the beginning of the month, so I invited my 30 people on LinkedIn to talk to us.
Yeah.
Five.
So, hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
What's the comment?
What we thought we would do is just go around the room and just introduce ourselves, just so you have an idea of who everyone is. I just said to Lynette, I can't even read. I think it makes sense. So, Rebecca, will start.
Sure. Hi, I'm Becca Briggs. I'm Hinkley Allen, and I do mostly intellectual property litigation. Cassandra Beatty, Pamela Waxer, Emily Collins. I do litigation.
James Natalie Friedlander. I'm an attorney at the Rhode Island Center for Justice, and I do plaintiff side litigation.
Dana Horton, Robinson and Cole, insurance litigation.
Donna DiDonato, Decoff, Barry, Meagher, and Quinn, plaintiffs litigation.
Lee Filker, I'm the criminal chief at the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Tamara Rocha, I work for the Rhode Island Supreme Court as the director of the Access to Justice Office.
I'm Nora Tyrewittick. I'm the clerk here at the district court.
Hi, Josh Xavier, Sinapi Law Associates, mostly employment and civil rights.
Danilo Vargas, also Sinapi Law Associates, plaintiffs employment law litigation.
Zach Mandel, Beauclair, and Mandel, plaintiffs litigation.
Dan Procaccini, Adler Pollock and Sheehan, commercial litigation, product liability, and government investigations.
I'm George West. I do criminal defense, appeals, and various other things.
We'll go to Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Simoncelli. I work in the clerk's office. I'm the operations manager.
Marina Smith, I work in the clerk's office. I'm the admin specialist.
Megan Kenny, I also work in the clerk's office, case administrator.
And then maybe everyone on the Zoom, and then Lynette and I will be last.
Hi there, Mike Daly with Pierce Atwood, and I do general commercial litigation.
Mark Morris with Law Office of Mark Morris. I do mostly plaintiff side litigation, and I'm the representative for the Bar Association for the Advisory Council.
Adam Ramos, Hinkley Allen, civil litigation.
Crystal Tedeschi, Lock Lord, commercial litigation and antitrust regulatory work. Josh Dunn, Brown Rudnick, Commercial Litigation.
John Fullweiler, plaintiff's maritime litigation.
Hi, I'm Pam Chin. I'm a partner at Lynch and Pine. I do primary criminal defense.
Casey Nicasio, and also commercial litigation.
John Marshall, probation chief for the court.
I'm Lynette Labinger. I'm exclusively doing cases sponsored by the ACLU of Rhode Island.
I'm Mark DeSisto, and I usually lose to Lynette in every single case she files.
Yeah, right. But he's there on a lot of them.
Only as it should be.
So I'm not sure that we have a clear-cut agenda, but I do want to make sure that everybody has seen their committee assignments. And we're really excited about the committees and the chairs. And I think before we end today, we probably should take some time, because it's so hard, like herding cats, to get committees together, for each of the committee chairs to speak with the people on their committee and get the date for the next meeting set up so that they can move forward. Because I think the next few steps are going to be a lot of committee work. And most of you are on 2 committees. The chairs are only on 1. If somebody really wants to be formally on another committee, let us know. But I think you can attend any meeting you want. But we wanted to keep the committees relatively small so that they could get things done.
But we encourage, I talked to Zach about this, like, we encourage you to, I have an interest, I'm not on this particular committee, but I have an interest in it or a particular issue in it, if you have the time. But we know that it's great that you're here. So, but if you have the time and say, I'm not on, the local rules committee, but I'm interested in it, please attend. I think that would be great.
So then maybe once we set up our individual meeting schedules, we can send everyone the notice of the date and time. Okay.
Yeah. I also think it makes sense to have Donna, you had mentioned this, sort of a group session on what we all want to do, so that everyone knows, because someone may say, gee, I'm not on local rules, but I always thought that this would be a good issue. And so you know what's going on. And there's going to be overlap here on everything.
And the other thing, we were just talking briefly before the meeting a couple of days ago, and rather than get a whole bunch of emails, Nora has talked about putting us on the website, to have a spot on the website where you can go and look and see when the committee dates are and who's meeting and if there's an agenda, that kind of thing, and who to contact. But in terms of like scheduling, we want to keep the committees relatively small so you can actually get the meetings set up, because everybody's got, busy schedules, conflicts and so forth, that you're not having to worry about getting this large a group together, often. So you want to talk about protocols?
Yeah. Good. You want me to start?
Yes.
So here we have these committees. So we've got to put some thought into what's the organizational structure, if any, of these committees. And by that, we mean, if the committee has something, and committees should do it their own way, and then they have something where it's at the point where it's refined enough and everyone on the committee agrees, and they want to propose it to the court, what does the whole committee have as far as input? So we talked about a couple of things. One is that's the committee, they've made the decision and it goes over to the court. The other is it comes to the full committee for something like a 2/3 vote. And if it doesn't pass the full committee, it doesn't get to the court. Or a hybrid. And a hybrid would be by email, we say, here's our proposal. Does anyone want to be heard? We think this is important, so everyone should be heard. And then we get input that way. We thought, those are the three. I think we thought we'd talk about that and get your ideas on how you feel that this should be structured. Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll start because you and I are very much on a different, I want to keep things as loose as possible. And the idea of a 2/3 vote, I mean, this is my view, nobody else's. We're an advisory group. If one person thinks that a particular change to a rule, either add it, remove it, amend it, is a good idea, I would like the court to hear about that, even if everybody else thinks it's bad, okay? Because we're here, we've been selected by the court to benefit the court. I mean, I'm not talking about immediately pushing it out, but to have all of that discussion go through, figure it out, and then we give a report on whatever these rules are, saying this is what we're recommending, and here's the minority view if there is one, but not to have like a veto where nothing goes through if there's no 2/3 consensus or something like that. That's my personal.
I agree with that.
Oh.
If this is why she wins everything. I just agree. I agree with that as long as the court would know, when it got through the committee, and so here it is. But when we sent it to the main committee, to the main council, overwhelmingly, they didn't think it was a good idea. So something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's okay.
I think, what I said before about this, I look back at my experience serving on the Rules Commission, and the microcosm I chaired the Criminal Rules Committee. So that's a really specialized practice and unique to our section of law. And it wouldn't be readily available for review by the committee as a whole, because if we think it, if I have the criminal chief, I have the head federal public defender, and I'm the CJA representative for the district, we'd like to be heard on particular criminal rules. And I think the maritime folks would say the same thing. I remember when they brought forward a whole raft of changes to the maritime rules. So there's going to be things like that that are way out. I mean, I wouldn't comment on those if my wife depended on it. So it would be way outside our expertise.
Yeah.
So I like the looser format. I think it's going to be necessary.
I mean, I don't want us to get really bogged down. I would hope, and it depends on what it is. I mean, some things are much more deliberative and thoughtful in terms of like how long it goes out, and other things need to get done. But to really just keep everybody on the council updated so that people can weigh in real time and not have, as I was saying the other day, I'm on the House of Delegates, and it's got bylaws, it's got structure and things, Mark, here, there, somewhere, they have to go to the executive committee all the way up the food chain and then come back to the House of Delegates, and it can take a long time unless we hold an emergency meeting. And since we're just an advisory council, and I think, the court's looking to us for advice, but I do think that we want to try to give them the benefit of our thought on issues earlier than later.
So middle ground, though, is it gets there, but we all have sort of a say. Anyone have any different or any take on that?
So I'm wondering why we're looking at a 2/3 vote for it to be considered a recommendation as opposed to just a simple majority.
Well, I think we do away with that, Mark, and just say this has been proposed, but Judge, we want you to know that the rest of the council, we did have some differing opinions, and so it doesn't have a majority support or something like that.
Yeah, I would think
that would make sense.
I would think that at least initially, and I think we're a work in progress, and that's why I'm really strongly against trying to develop any bylaws or anything else at this point. We spent a lot of time drafting them instead of moving forward. But I would think that with the committees being as small as they are now, some of them are even numbers, and you can always have a split vote on that. But if the consensus of the committee, which is basically a majority, is pushing something, then that may be, enough to trigger the rest of the council weighing in on it, but it going forward. But I think if it's just one person who wants something and no one else is supporting it, then and there's no other package going up, then that may just be tabled to the next time. But I would really like to push this to the chairs to figure out, because you've got really different things on your plate in terms of what you're trying to do. I mean, some of the CLE is trying to set up programs, and the rules are basically looking at the rules and inviting folks to weigh in on those. And I think they're kind of like different missions, but I think we all have cross interests in them.
Lynette, this is Stacy. The two committees I've been involved in historically have been local rules and the bar fund, both of which already have existing procedures, particularly local rules, which has a schedule of when things have to happen and how they have to happen. So I think your point is right, that as we constitute these committees, we should look within our own sort of territory portfolio and see what needs some revision to incorporate the council's involvement.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the local rules, the requirements on the local rules are in the federal rules, right? In terms of how you adopt local rules?
Yes, but we also have, I think, a procedure we follow within our district as well, in terms of maybe it is prescribed federally, but the time frame for sending it out for comment, and then the process by which we would write up a report to the judges and get their feedback. So there is an established practice. How prescribed it is, I'm not sure, but I think that the chair of that committee needs to think about how this new structure interacts with that.
I thought this subsumed all those smaller committees.
This one does, yeah.
So
But
I don't know if we're bound by that.
Yeah, if they come from the from the federal side, the administrative office or whatever, then sure. Yeah. If they're not, then I think we have license to look at it and come up with a new process. But I do think that before the court can adopt any rules, it has to send it out for notice and comment, and that may be a long way after we make recommendations about things that should be changed.
But I think that's all the more reason to make the recommendation as quickly as possible or as soon as possible.
Yep.
There's already a process.
Yeah, because there's a much more formal process that follows it. The notice and comment, and they don't take, everything takes effect like December 1 or something like that.
So how do we get notice to the other council members from each committee? Meaning, does each committee have notes, have notes of the meetings, which we probably should have, I think. So you have to designate someone to be the
minutes, you mean?
Right. And then what happens? Do those get circulated, or does the end result get circulated? These are the things we should discuss. Yeah. What do you think?
And I do think it's going to depend on the committee, right? So it's like, so I'm just thinking about the CLE committee, and I'm thinking, I know I had raised this to you guys before, but it's like if we have a lunch session with a judge or something and it's like a really easy, quick thing, does that need to get the entire committee vote on or not? Obviously, I would think like the district conference would, so I don't know how that works. Whereas maybe a local rule does need to have some oversight because that's a more formal thing. I don't know, but I would think that for CLE, just to help streamline the process, maybe not every single one needs to have a full committee vote, but I don't know if that's how we want to proceed,
But a full committee vote versus Mark's talking about minutes, so that the rest of us know what you did at your particular meeting. I mean, I understand how important that may be so that we're all kept up to date, but then I worry about what Lynette said, are getting bogged down, as you know. So I don't have a problem with it being like a summary of what was accomplished at every meeting and that going out.
Yeah.
But actual minutes, who said what, when, and the dialogue, I think that's going to be
No, I
too
agree.
late.
No, I agree with that. I just wonder, like, so where is the line? Right? So, for example, I don't know, we have the district or conference on one end and we have a lunch session with a judge on another. So what about like an all-day program? Like, is that something that it's sufficient? I just want to know so that we're on the same page, where it's like, so is that sufficient where if we just have minutes of like what the subcommittee talked about and we give who the speakers are going to be, and that type of thing, like, is that sufficient notice to the committee, or does there need to be like some type of, if somebody has a very strong objection to it, which I would want to know, frankly, if whoever is on the subcommittee didn't pick up on some issue, maybe there's some conflict that we just don't know about or something like that. I don't know,
Right, but at the same time, we could streamline the process, because I think I agree that not everything needs to go to the full committee vote. If it's substantive, like the local rules, right, the district conference, okay, get everybody's opinion. But if it's lunch with a judge, do we really need to wait to get everybody's input on it? I think.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think if there's some sort of, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna have 3 CLEs.
Right.
If someone has a problem, fine, but I doubt it. On the other hand, if it's access to justice or local rules, and we're really changing this.
Right. Yeah.
That I think we need to kind of weigh in on. And I just want to reiterate, I agree with George. Like, if your group is talking about criminal stuff, half of us are going to say, oh, okay,
right.
I don't know, but let us, but at least we know.
Yeah, sure. I have no objection.
So
The benefit to reporting it to the committee is not just to get approval, but you may have a program you're considering, and there may be someone else on the committee who's not on your committee that has another idea or something to add to it. So if it's something you think that might benefit from the input of others, as long as you put it in a report, then people will be on notice and can collaborate on that if their area of expertise comes into play.
It seems to me that it would be, as a going forward operating premise, it might be, at a minimum would be when the meetings are scheduled to have an agenda. I don't remember if it was Donna or somebody talking about preparing minutes, which I do for one of the boards I'm on, and they're hateful. And they take a long time, longer than the meetings. And I don't think we want to do that to anyone, but it could be that, if there's a lot of them, there's like not much to report, like our next, we discuss these topics in our next meetings on such and such, or we scheduled a CLE, more information to follow.
Yeah.
But keep it like at the bare minimum level, unless there's really something that people need to know about.
I agree.
Call it a report.
Yeah.
Summary.
Yeah.
Report.
That's it.
Summary.
And it could be that the chairs, if you see something in the report that you think really should be discussed at the full committee level, you can flag that and say, hey, I think it should.
Using major questions doctrine.
And I mean, I guess we should probably, wait and see whether the, having a page or whatever on the website is going to be sufficient to get information out to folks, as opposed to sending emails on everything. So that, the emails are going to be limited primarily to the committee members, but the posting would be on the website. So people don't get bombarded with a whole bunch of emails.
Can we post a PDF to that site? Is that doable?
Sure, yeah.
Maybe that's the answer to it. Just post a report right to the site.
Well, and then I had a thought too, which is like, how often are we going to be meeting as a full committee? Because I assume like when we meet as a full committee, we're going to be meeting, 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 we're going to once we start getting the structure down, at least part of it will be, let's hear from the local rules committee, let's hear from the CLE committee, let's hear from whatever, and just give a quick update or something, I assume, but I don't know.
So when do we all want to meet together? Do we want to have a structure to that, or is it just we're making progress, we ought to meet? I don't know. Yeah,
Structure might give committees sort of a goal.
I think so.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, would the court be seeking advice on topics, and could that drive a meeting?
For sure, a committee meeting or the full advisory council, yeah. But just in terms of like, catching up as to where are we, has any, have people met, are they having issues, that kind of stuff. I'm thinking, we met last time was like 3 or so weeks ago. I think we can push it out a lot longer than that. And the expectation that the committees will start meeting and figuring out, I mean, there's some short range, long range things, depending on what the committee is. What are you all thinking? 2 months, 3 months?
I was thinking every other day. I think in the beginning, maybe we meet earlier just to see where we are. Maybe in 30 days we meet and see what the progress has been. Does that sound too early?
It sounds kind of early, very early.
I was thinking that the subcommittees meet within the next 30 days.
Exactly.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So perhaps we have the full council meeting, push that out maybe 60 days,
Or even
75
90
days.
I'm good. Good with that.
And I would also caution too, George, doing a PDF of a summary of each subcommittee's meeting means it's going to be accessible by anyone. At some points in time, both Mark and Lynette have suggested that we go out to the rest of the federal bar to get their input, because we do want this to be everyone involved, even though we're the ones that are on the CAC. So doing a PDF summary on the web for everyone to see, I don't know if that's going to cause more commotion than it's going to be, rather than informative, because we may start getting a lot more feedback before we're ready to start collecting. So
how about if we set up an advisory council listserv?
that may be,
And post it to a listserv.
that may be even better.
It's not a bad idea. That's a pretty good
That's a
idea.
really good idea.
What we do on the CJA list.
Exactly. Yep, that'd be
We
even
don't want
better.
anybody else in
Yeah.
there, so that.
And even just like for Mark, what you were saying and Lynette, I mean, to get people's inputs. So, hey, we met as a committee and we want to have like a CLE on local rules. Does anybody have a good idea for a speaker? Just like a, hey, let's just start this.
Yep.
Gets collective thought, I
Yep.
think is a really good idea.
If we do that, we have to safeguard it, that it doesn't get, let people jump on and read it.
Yeah.
It's got to have some integrity.
I have a question about how each committee's governing rules will be. I mean, it sounds like generally the rule is going to be for most of the committees, if there's a majority of the committee members that support something, then only to go to the next step, whatever that step might be. So my question is each committee free to adopt a different kind of rubric? Because I could kind of see, no offense to George or Pam or Kevin, that my committee is me from the government side and a bunch of very capable defense attorneys who are going to win any argument with me. So a clear majority rule will not work out quite well for our committee. So I don't know how we're going to work that out, but are we free to kind of put up a different, that's be more of a,
I think so.
yeah.
Okay. I think in the criminal rules setting, when we were talking about that, Terry was on it. I think Sandy was at one time. We've just basically tried to reach
consensus,
total agreement.
Okay.
So we didn't send up, and if there was an outlier, I don't remember there ever being one, but if there was one, we would note it.
That's good.
But we have academic support here. Pam is ready to jump in and mediate.
It's funny because as a former prosecutor, I understand where Lee's coming from, but now that I'm on the defense side, I see where Lee's now afraid to be behind the ball with all the weight going against him. It's not a comfortable position.
I might ask a couple of my friends to join me.
I'm gonna be able to get Marshall support for you.
Right.
Okay, no problem. So we kind of have the loose structure. The subcommittees are gonna meet in the next 30 days. Subcommittees, the committees are gonna meet in the next 30 days. And then the council will push out to 60. And we can always say, we're not ready, we'll push it out again. And then if we can get that communication going, it may be that some of you, because the next issue is, how do we get issues to the table? I mean, does it just come from the subcommittee? Or can someone else say, I think you ought to look at this, including the judge or Nora or anyone? Say, Raina, we got a problem here. You're going to look at this. So if we get that communication going, I think that'll help us, whether it's by the website or emails to everyone on listserv. So I hope I'm not jumping ahead. But how do we get issues to these committees? I mean, does the chair say, here's what I'd like to look at? What do you want? Or do we get to say, on, I'll pick on Zach, on CLE, you want to look at this issue, or something like that. How does that get vetted? Any ideas?
That's why I had mentioned the other day, Mark, initially I thought that this council should meet several times and divide, like, per session, we do 2 of the committees and get everybody's input on what you were looking, what your objective is, Zach, with regard to the local rules. Are there certain things that you want us to look at? Because in practice, you realize that this really didn't have any legs. And that way it's highlighted for us when we start going into our individualized groups. And then once we have comments from everybody on all of the little pet peeves with each of the subcommittee topics, then we can go out on our own, having heard from everybody.
Can we do that? I forget the word. Can we do that by email? I mean, can we do that ahead of time? Like here, because I have a whole bunch of issues. I'm sure everyone else does that. Maybe we say here, everyone has a list, and then the chairs look at it. And then maybe we meet and say, something like that.
That's a great idea.
One possibility is that, as the committees have their first scheduled meeting, that you're sending out an email or on the listserv or whatever, we're having our first meeting on such and such. If there are any topics that you would like us to address, please reply.
Yep. Okay.
And do it that way. But I mean, there's some things are built in, some are not, but there are existing rules. There's an existing pro se fund, right? And, things that have to be looked at. There have been CLE programs that need to get them. There are some that are on the path right now, right, with the litigation academy and so forth. So they're still out there. That just pick them up and continue to run with them.
I mean, we can throw things out. I'm going to give you one, like mediation. Do we need it? Should we change how it is? And I have some ideas on that. Like I have some real, and I would like to be heard on that. I forget. I think is that with you, Donna? I can't remember. It's mediation. Yeah, that would be court.
Yeah, it's in the rules. Yep.
It's in the rules.
Oh, we're gonna change that. You know what I mean? Like
I already have a draft.
But I would like, that's something that I'd like to.
But I mean, you can also articulate mediation issue as access to justice, because there are a lot of people who, litigation's really expensive. And are there ways that you can advocating in that forum to, find ways to streamline things, make things more cost effective? So, or a CLE program about it too. So, I mean, you can be looking at it in a variety of ways.
I mean, like, I've been the chair of the Superior Court Bench Bar Committee for the last couple of years, and I know Dana was before. And the way that we usually do it is people just email us ideas.
Right.
So it's like, we know we have a meeting coming up, and pretty consistently people will either call me or email me and say, hey, I have an idea. I think it'd be really good to do for the bench bar committee. And so then I'll raise it at the next meeting. And at the end of every meeting, we have like new business. Does anybody have any new business or suggestions? I think pretty naturally that will happen. I think it's going to be whatever people want to put into it. It's like, Mark, if you have really strong ideas on something, then,
As long as people are aware when the committee meeting will take place, they have the
Right.
opportunity to send those emails before.
Exactly.
Well, if you circulate an agenda, then you know what's
Yeah.
at least planned to be talked about, and you keep a new business category, and then, like you said, people email, they call, it may trigger them to have an idea.
So organically work out that way.
Yeah, and it may be that, like, it just triggers something. I may say, this is the way I want mediation. I'd like it to go this way.
Shoot
So
off an email.
your committee may say yes, but then Access to Justice may say, wait a minute, that has a detrimental impact on certain rules. Okay, I didn't really think about that, so.
This might be a question for you, Nora. Are committees able to use this room for meetings?
Sure.
Thank you.
I mean, let us know,
Yeah.
because mediations happen in here frequently.
Yes.
But we can, for this room or any room in the courthouse, actually, so that we've got many different, the fifth floor attorney lounge is a similarly sized room, a little smaller. We've got the first floor conference room that will put you anywhere, for sure.
Does this have,
Just let you know.
Yep, yep.
Does this have attorney internet availability in this room?
Room 3 does. I don't know if the MiFi spreads to this room.
So if we wanted to have Zoom remote participants, we'd have to coordinate with this equipment, right?
Yes, and so as a reminder, every committee's got a staff liaison, so that's who probably you would liaise with. So Mike and Megan are for local rules.
Okay.
Raina is for CLE, and Raina's here, and then John Marshall's on, and he's for criminal law. And Judge Sullivan is the special consultant for the criminal law group, and then myself for the DEI group, so we can, but start, email me, I'll get it to the right person, and we can do hybrid meetings in 2 of the rooms. So in this room and then down in the first floor conference room, the clerk's office.
So what do you think? Are we ready to try to get some committee meetings scheduled? And Mark and I didn't assign ourselves to any committees, so we're just gonna float. Pester you on all of them.
Okay, so next step is what? You want to do that now, or?
It might make sense.
Well,
Email each other and find.
No,
Yeah.
I need to be in front of my calendar to
Oh, you
do
do?
it.
You
So
don't
I'll
have-
email
okay.
everybody tomorrow, give them a couple of options and.
right.
we'll go from there.
I also think it's March 1st. We're gonna have a full meeting on May 1st, right? 60
More or
days.
less, yeah.
Now we know the subcommittees, we have to schedule something within that time period, so.
Okay.
As long as we schedule a full committee meeting, we know when we have to schedule. We can figure that out ourselves.
And so in the meantime, if you have any ideas on the issues for the committees, send them, right? And then just go from there.
The bar as a whole, going to be invited to send in issues?
Yeah.
How will that work?
I don't know yet.
I think the committees themselves have to reach out. And the way I look at this is you can reach out to the whole group, everyone, which is a good thing. But I also think it's okay to call John Tarantino and say, John, you do a lot in blah, blah.
Right.
Can you weigh in on this? We really need your help on things, or on the criminal side of things. You know, can you, Bob, what do you think about this? You know, and get Bob involved. You know, that I think that's a good thing, and it gets the bar, you know, all excited. I hope. So, I really think that any recommendations we make for the courthouse in general will have a good impact on the bar itself. Like, oh, they are making, that's a good decision. Oh, that's, you know, like the easy one is phones for now. If you're a litigant, you don't have a phone. That should be discussed. And if that's changed, it's like, they changed that. You know, that I think those things really might excite the bar more than local rules such and such has been changed to reflect that, you know.
I know there's one that I believe is of interest to the court, which has to do with, and this goes to both access and to the rules in terms of continuing to make proceedings available in real time. And I guess that's going to take some amount of research, but there may not be a categorical rule that says no cameras in the courtroom. And that's something that I think we've all had a favorable experience from having, you know, more public access to court proceedings. I mean, during the height of the pandemic, I remember sitting in on, I think it was called Dr. T before Judge McElroy when she was hearing, it had to do with, I guess, vaccinations and public hospitals. And I mean, there were over 300 people on the Zoom, and to the point where, you know, you couldn't get on because there was so much public interest. And I think that, you know, courtrooms are open to the public, but they're really open to the public when they're accessible in more than just being physically present, something that I know I would strongly advocate that we explore as much as possible, making that available. And I guess that's a local rules issue, and, you know, and the access committee could also be weighing in on that.
Judge McConnell said that all of the proceedings are broadcast on Zoom now.
For
Is
the
that right,
moment.
Nora?
Until next month, yeah.
Why until next month?
No, I mean, like,
Emergency authorization, the CARES Act expires.
I don't mean solely remotely, but even if it's not remote, they're broadcast on Zoom, according to what I understood, or on the YouTube channel.
YouTube, yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
But that won't last.
The remote ones won't last because of the expiration of the authorization.
Right.
And so that's something that probably is a big topic to be focusing on. That might be the most important one on a short-term basis, to see whether we can, you know, propose that a rule on that topic at an early date.
That happens in June.
Yeah, very early date.
The circuit's looking at that.
Yeah.
Is it as well?
Yes.
Do you need circuit approval in order for the district court to do anything?
I don't think so, but Judge McConnell's on that committee.
Oh, okay.
He's all over.
Yeah, they're
He's chairman of it.
Oh, okay.
hard.
He was saying if you can bypass that, if there's a local rule. So we can bypass that if committee decides and everything.
I mean, we're all here and we've now raised that. Does anyone have a different view about trying to be expansive in terms of you know, live streaming, whatever that means in terms of like the maximizing the accessibility to hearings and court proceedings through remote feeds in real time?
You don't mean the press, you mean the remote feeds, not live broadcast on TV.
It's not
So
on
that's the first
TV, but,
distinction.
That's the distinction, yeah.
so it's a narrow cast? Is that what it is?
Well, I don't
No,
think
it's
it includes
webcasting versus
TV
broadcast.
broadcasters. You know, no,
It's a distinction that perhaps didn't exist.
no stars of the courtroom, you know.
Well, it's not like the local TV can bring in their own camera.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, but the local TV can access
Anybody can. Yeah.
what's on there and put it on their TV screen if
I'm
they,
not sure about that.
really,
Yeah.
they don't have permission to
Do
do.
not
Yeah, you
record. It's
cannot-
on.
Ah.
They cannot use that. It's
Okay,
just for the public to watch.
so it's to watch but not record.
So
But then-
two issues. One, the remote keeps going, and two, can broadcasters come in?
But can they rebroadcast it? They can't because it disappears. But what if it's,
But I think there's a concern too about, there's a warning that says you can't record
Right.
it.
Which is actually a local,
Right.
what's that?
it's a local rule.
Yeah,
That you
and
can't
you can be
record.
held in contempt.
I think there's a feedback if you don't acknowledge it, so you have to acknowledge it. And there's a feedback to the person running the program that they know you do.
Right.
Is
I
there,
think there are other mechanisms to report that are.
well, sure, you.
Yeah.
Record it. But that you could be subject to contempt if you do that. Nor is there some discussion about expanding it so that it's more than just a live feed that cannot be reproduced?
You mean like to record it and put it out somewhere so people could watch it over and over?
Yeah,
No, I don't think so.
I mean, there's local rules and there's federal rules regarding recording, like that those are currently. And those, we've gotten around those with the CARES Act stuff, but they are still rules that are.
what about oral recordings? I mean, the circuit courts, the Supreme Court, they all now, you can get access to those oral arguments now. Do we have anything like that?
Not currently, but I mean, I think that's the issue in this kind of space between it.
So I mean, it seems to me there's like several issues. One is what's the maximum we can do? And also, should we be recommending that there be more than the maximum, maybe even if we can't get there now, I mean, our state courts, there was a time when everything was on the news.
Yeah.
And that seems people have lost interest in it, I guess, because there's so much of it. But we've had cameras, effectively in the courts for how many decades now, and things haven't exploded yet. So
Yeah, I'm in favor of expanding it as much as we can.
do we have a consensus on that too?
No.
Is there any cost or
No,
reason not to?
no. So from the criminal defense standpoint, you
Hang
I
want,
think we would have to talk about that.
No,
for a
not to
long
hang
time.
on to videos, but
Okay.
just to,
Broadcast everything.
yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, I think the more transparent, the better, I think is what what our perspective is.
Yeah, but there's no cost, like, it's not like,
I mean, there would be a cost in hanging on to, like, storage space is what I'm thinking about for videos, which is why a lot of those courts do audio only, because there's really nothing to see either. I mean, the point people want to hear is the audio.
But if you're only doing it live, you don't need to store it.
yeah.
Jury issues, there's, fair trial.
right?
Yeah.
That's why we're talking.
What about like consent issues from people that are testifying? I mean, do you need to have someone sign an authorization?
Not on the remote. I think you don't get it, because the trials I've had, frankly,
The
the
defendant has
office
to
is watching,
consent.
it's great, they can text me or email me and say, what are you asking? But.
No, but I'm
there
thinking
are
some of the cases, like the med mal cases,
Yeah.
I could see some of our experts really having an issue. And I don't know what's the process has been, and as far as in the federal court, if you have anyone sign an authorization that they know.
What happens in the state court?
Well, with the camera in the courtroom that they're there.
Yeah.
But this is something that people don't even realize are happening, from what I understand, in the federal court. That unless someone knows the process and what's going on here, it's been kind of.
Interesting issue, because if I'm a witness and I say I don't want to be
Right.
streamed, is it too bad? I guess it is.
It hasn't come up that I've known because like you said, the camera is it's a very small fixed
Yeah.
camera in the courtroom. Like it's not like a
Tripod.
television
Right.
thing where you see it's blinking and.
Yeah.
that kind of thing, yeah.
What if you have a duty to advise?
I don't know.
Well, there's certainly a variety of protections that the court can impose, you know, if you've got a confidential witness or somebody who has privacy issues or, you know, a victim. At all times, you can have things to mask their name, mask their, you know, privacy issues. These are all really good points that we should be thinking about.
I think it's good to be able, for the bar members, even just to be able to watch other practitioners, you know, putting a case on and seeing, you know, the issues that are coming up that you have to try next.
Yeah.
I've tried to, you know, go into a few things. It doesn't always work, but, you know, go into the remote feed and see if you can watch.
Yeah.
I think it's good, but then I get concerned about the next level of that because could put a chilling effect on our ability to defend our clients. It's hard enough to get witnesses to come to court, let alone put them on television while they're doing it. You know?
Guess that cuts both ways. Some
It
people
does, but I
really
mean,
watch.
you know, I'm more concerned about defending my client.
This is good to discuss at a committee level. And
Absolutely.
Obviously, you're gonna get into it.
Sure.
I think it, you know, the question, I mean, there's like the potential for a general standard and, you know, the default, and then the potential for reasons to make it more limited. But I mean, courtrooms are, you know, even without the cameras, they're a public place. And if people can come in and see it in person and see the members of the jury and see the witnesses and so forth, the question is, you know, is it different? Obviously, it's somewhat different, but you know, anybody who can make it here can come watch a trial.
Big difference between that and technological advancement, which tracks someone's every movement all over the globe.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like the constable on the beat could observe something, right? Fourth Amendment. But you know, the contractor can tell you exactly where they went.
So there are capacity limits, right? So a courtroom, how many people can be in there at the same time? So can we have some sort of capacity limit on how many people can view online at the same time? You know, I don't know if we can do that, kind of put a limit so you don't have thousands of people watching.
Well, it is actually somewhat limited just by the nature of
There you
our
go.
Zoom license. There
Right.
are 300, I think 300 people connected at any one time. And then people start getting a message that it's whatever versus.
So it's not like millions of people will be watching it. 300, more maybe at most.
Yeah, I know I couldn't get onto that hearing until somebody dropped off. It was around 350 something.
Well, that was because Dr. T sent it to all of his Twitter followers. So, yes, so that was a fun day.
It was interesting, but it's the kind of thing that, you know, really brings the, you know, makes what's going on. These were really important issues during the pandemic, you know, accessible to a lot of people and people who were shut into their homes, you know, for a long time. So I think it's really valuable. I personally would not like to lose it entirely.
And to George's point, it goes towards, you know, CLEs and learning, and especially younger lawyers who want to watch, you know, more experienced attorneys and see how they do, and those of us who don't have trial experience and see actually how a trial happens. I think it's really important for that kind of access and CLE and just young lawyer development purpose.
Okay, so you have a lot to talk about. That's an issue.
That's one of your CLE.
Yeah.
An administrative note in about 5 minutes, I'm sorry, they're gonna do a fire alarm test. It's just a test. I know that, of course, it's fine.
Do we have anything else anyway?
No, I think we're good.
I think we're good.
We're picking a date for
Oh.
next.
Okay.
May 1st is a Monday. I don't know what day of the week you hold for. As you said, 60 days.
And then the committee chairs will have their own stuff and send it to us.
May 1st works for me.
I'm good May 1st.
I cannot do May 1st, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be.
Can you do May 2nd or?
I could do May 2nd in the afternoon later, yes.
We all good with Tuesday, May 2nd?
This will be the first time, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
Yeah.
May 2nd,
At
okay.
4 o'clock work for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be working, yeah.
The other thing, just maybe by email, we can talk about having judges' feedback and participation. I talked to Judge McConnell about it today after our conversation yesterday, and he is not here today, and he is of the opinion, like you said, Mark, that he doesn't want to chill things, but he wanted to leave it to the committee or to the council to decide what kind of level of interaction you want with the judges. They'll be here if you want them here. They won't be here if you don't want them here. They're totally open, but they wanted to leave it to you.
Maybe on an issue by issue basis, we really want the judges input on this, or we don't. So, but we can work that out
Maybe as we
committee wise.
get closer to that.
Yeah.
That date, see what substantively we have going.
Great. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Frank, are you there?
Yep, I'm right here.
Do you think that you can end the whole thing so we stop the stream?
Say it one more time.
Are you able to stop the whole feed? Because on behalf of Nora.
I think so. I think if I just
And
leave, right,
if
it'll
you-
end it.
Yep, if you end the whole meeting, that would be great.
Okay, do it right now.
Okay, thanks.
Leave meeting though? Well, Nora's the host, so that's gonna,
I think you're the co-host, so I thought you could, all right.
but I
never mind.
think, don't I have to be the main host in order to,
I think it might prompt you. If it does, I'll go over and end it on her behalf. I'm still here, so.
okay, yeah, I'm not sure that I will, but
Oh,
give it a
okay.
shot.
All right, if it doesn't, I'll go over.
All right. All right, I'm leaving
Thank
now.
you. Have a
Yep,
good night.
thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.